It's always a learning experience with Linux because with Linux, there's just so much more layers that you're not aware of in Windows and Mac. And not that they don't exist in other operating systems, but it's just you're not really aware of them. Whereas in Linux, if you choose to, you can become aware of them, and not just become aware of them. You can change, you can try out and things like that. So hopefully, this video will explain a little bit on display server protocols, or what you might see as X11 and Wayland. Um, so, as mentioned, these are what are called display server protocols. To describe them without going into too much detail, this is how your desktop, like these control how your windows appear, how inputs work, and how your desktop environment kind of communicates with your GPU. So this is not really like something that's just under the hood that you don't have to, that won't really affect anything on the surface. No, these do change. Like there are visual differences between them. Not so. This is just to be clear. This is beyond, like when I say visual differences, I don't mean like a theme. I mean like, basically, as I mentioned, like how windows appear and inputs work. So there is a difference. The biggest thing that people who used to use X11, well, before I get into that, X11 is very old, and the reason why Wayland came about, one of the reasons why Wayland came about, was because X11 was made at a time, way before modern GPUs and dual displays and I don't know what. So when these things came about, there's just like adaptive layers that were added on to bring about compatibility for these things. Whereas the point of Wayland is to try to, just in general, make a more modern display server protocol that addresses these, issues natively rather than just adding compatibility layers like X11 does. So because of this, one of the biggest flaws or one of the biggest things that people complain about X11 is screen tearing. Especially during multi-monitor setups and alt tabbing and such. And Wayland, being more modern and designed for more modern setups, doesn't have these issues with like virtual sync and such built in. You're not going to see those same screen tearing issues and such. Now, I maybe if I were to show you, I would have to maybe play a video game or something where you can see these, where you can see screen tearing happening. But the thing, though, to be honest, I use both, and this setup KDE is on X11. KDE 5, KDE Plasma 5 is on X11, and I haven't noticed much screen tearing issues. But I will say during alt tabbing, yes, I have noticed very awkward alt tabs, and I don't have a dual monitor setup like I used to, so I can't really show that anymore. But I can attest to that as well. We'll get to this in a bit in a second, but as you can see, as I mentioned, I am on KDE with X11 right now. So we'll talk about this later, but it's not like, X11 is old and, no one uses it anymore. But we'll get to that in a second. Wayland is kind of becoming more of the default that you will see. I'm on Pop! OS 24.04. So when I go to my Cosmic desktop environment, the default is, and I think the only installed one, is Wayland. I think same thing for a lot of the newer distros that use, like, for example, I think KDE Plasma 6, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it, but if I'm not mistaken, comes with Wayland by default. And newer versions of GNOME and stuff, and as I mentioned, the Cosmic desktop environment. So it is becoming more and more of the default, but it doesn't mean that everyone uses Wayland or everyone uses X11. And you can definitely switch between them. So I can show you here. I don't know. Okay, there we go. So you can see here, I'm on my login screen, and I have a bunch of desktop environments installed. I have a lot installed because I like to feel like I have, I'm switching up looks every once in a while. Anyways, so you can see I have Plasma X11. Now I'll talk about Plasma Wayland in a second. Let's leave that. You'll see GNOME and GNOME on Wayland, and if you scroll up, you'll just see Cosmic because that's on Wayland by default. And if you're, by the way, if you're curious to see, well, what am I currently using on my setup, I'll paste this command in the description. It's a very simple command. You'll be able to see what display server protocol you're using. And as I mentioned, mine is X11. Okay, so going back to the topic of can you switch between them? Yes, you definitely can. And the good news is this is generally something that is, very safe. Like the worst case scenario, and I can talk about this with Wayland, with Plasma. So I thought to try Plasma with Wayland. So when I installed that, I realized that I was not able to boot into or log into Plasma with Wayland. So worst case scenario, I installed something I wasn't able to log into. So I was like, oh, that's not working. I'll just go back to my other setup. So whether that's X11 or any other of my other desktop environments, they all work just fine. So I can go ahead and just delete this if I want to, and just save that disk space. But that's pretty much it. It doesn't cause anything that is damaging to your other setups. So it's a safe operation to do. So how do you do that? It's quite easy. Just follow if there are any documentation provided by your distribution on how you can install other desktop environments. Now, just to be clear, if that point didn't come across, X11 and Wayland are not desktop environments, right? They are something else. But the reason I'm showing this is because usually when you install another desktop environment, like I'll show you with GNOME, I just did that here. So when I install GNOME, right, that desktop environment, and I log out and try to log into GNOME, I'm gonna get these options. So usually when you install the desktop environment, you can do it in such a way that if you using the right command, you have both. You'll have two versions of the desktop environment, one for each of the protocols. So this allows you to be able to try and to switch between them. So we talked a little bit about problems with X11, being mainly the screen tearing and awkward dual monitor setup. Are there any problems with Wayland? Now, I personally haven't encountered many, but oddly enough, I will say I actually use mostly this KDE setup. So I'm mostly on X11, but I haven't noticed, other than a couple of, like one app, Plank, it's a dock app. I noticed that was not supported on Wayland, but other than that, I haven't noticed anything. However, I will say that when I was looking into this just a little bit, just out of curiosity, there were actually a lot of users online complaining about Wayland and applications not working when they were trying out Wayland. So again, to be clear, if you are on X11 or you're on Wayland and you want to try the other thing, the safest thing is install a desktop environment, a separate desktop environment that has that protocol that you're looking for, so you can try it there. If what's it called? If anything goes wrong, if apps aren't compatible, or it's just not logging in, because like same with Plasma Wayland, it seemed that online other users were saying that with KDE Plasma 5, I think Wayland is not compatible yet. So again, if you just install it separately on a different desktop environment, you can always come back and no issues there. And for the most part, I mean, if you're just new to Linux, with these in this year, chances are you're most likely on Wayland as of now. So to talk about the question of if you're not sure, should you switch? It's really just a matter of personal preference. I wanted to do this video to try to just explain what these are. But if you're on your X11 install or your Wayland install and everything is fine, then there is no need to switch unless you want to, for whatever reason you want to try. You're free to do that. That's why we use Linux. We can try anything. But again, if everything is working, then stick with it. Don't feel like you have to switch just because Wayland is newer, for example. Again, I'm very happy on my KDE setup. The only thing I have noticed is when I'm on Cosmic or on my GNOME setup with Wayland, I just noticed that the alt tabbing is a lot smoother. That's it. Otherwise, I am perfectly happy on X11. So I hope you found that this video informative. Again, Linux has a lot of layers, so a lot to learn. So if you were watching this and like, oh, well, to begin with, what is a desktop environment? So there are a lot of layers to Linux, so I hope that this helped out in understanding one of those layers. So whenever you're looking at distributions or desktop environments and you see this term, hopefully now you have a little bit of a better understanding. And hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you very much. If you want to check out any other Linux content, feel free to check out the channel page.